1,400 years ago, in the heart of the Arabian desert, a man would rise whose words would echo across continents and centuries. A man with no armies, no wealth, and no political power. Yet he would reshape the course of human history forever. This is not just the story of a prophet, it's the story of the most influential life ever lived, and why his message still speaks to every soul today. I've been diving deep into the life of Prophet Muhammad, and the more I read, the more I'm struck by the depth, wisdom, and sheer impact of his life. He wasn't just a religious figure, he was a leader, a reformer, and a visionary who shaped the course of history in ways most of us can't fully grasp. He was born in Mecca around 570 AD, a time when Arabia was fragmented by tribal rivalries, steeped in ignorance, and dominated by idol worship. His early life was marked by hardship, losing both parents at a young age, becoming an orphan, and growing up under the care of his grandfather and later his uncle. Yet, even as a boy, there was something about him that stood out. People noticed his honesty, fairness, and reliability. It was this integrity that earned him the title Al-Amin, the trustworthy. Before his mission as a prophet began, he worked in trade, traveling across regions, managing business with absolute fairness. He never cheated or deceived anyone, and his reputation only grew stronger over time. It was this reputation that caught the attention of Khadijah, a wealthy and respected merchant. She admired his character so deeply that they eventually married, a marriage built on love, mutual respect, and trust. At the age of 40, while meditating in the solitude of the cave of Hira, away from the noise and corruption of society, he experienced a moment that would change not just his life, but the course of human history. The angel Gabriel appeared to him with the first revelation, commanding him to read. Those first words became the opening of the Quran, a book that would guide humanity for generations to come. Hey, quick thing before we go deeper. If you've made it this far, it means you're actually into this story. And honestly, there's a lot more coming that you won't want to miss. So do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free, it takes a second, and it tells me you want more of these stories in your feed instead of getting lost in the algorithm. Alright, let's get back to it. Over the next 23 years, revelations continued, addressing everything from justice, mercy, and compassion to laws and principles for living a meaningful and ethical life. But this message directly challenged the corruption and greed of Mecca's ruling elite. They mocked him, boycotted his followers, tortured the weak, and even plotted to kill him. Yet through all of it, he remained patient, calm, and unshaken in his mission. When threats became unbearable, he migrated to Medina, and there, he didn't just survive, he built an entirely new kind of community. It was a society founded on equality, justice, and the protection of all, regardless of religion, ethnicity, or social status. The Constitution of Medina became one of history's first multi-faith governance systems, granting rights to Muslims, Jews, and others in the city. But he wasn't only a spiritual guide, he was also a brilliant political strategist and a military leader with a code of ethics centuries ahead of its time. Even in war, he set rules to protect women, children, civilians, and even animals. He forgave those who had tried to kill him, tortured his companions, and destroyed his property, choosing reconciliation over revenge. In his personal life, he lived simply, sleeping on a mat, repairing his own clothes, and helping with household chores, despite being the most influential man in the region. His compassion for the poor, the orphaned, and the oppressed was unmatched. By the time he passed away at 63, Arabia had been transformed socially, politically, and spiritually, and his message had begun to spread far beyond the deserts, inspiring leaders, scholars, and ordinary people for centuries. The more you learn about Prophet Muhammad, the more you realize that his leadership was unlike anything we see in most of history. Despite the immense influence he gained, he never let power corrupt his character. He didn't live like a king, build palaces, or surround himself with luxury. Instead, he lived among the people, eating simple food, wearing modest clothing, and sharing in their daily struggles. That humility made his message even more powerful, because it wasn't about him, it was about the truth he was delivering. Even in the face of insults and provocations, he responded with patience and wisdom, never lowering himself to anger or vengeance. One story captures this perfectly. A woman in Mecca would throw garbage at him every single day as he passed her home. One day she didn't appear. Instead of feeling relief or satisfaction, he went to check on her and found her ill. He offered her help. That simple act of kindness softened her heart and completely changed how she saw him. In Medina, his leadership was remarkable, not just for Muslims, but for the entire community. He ensured the safety and rights of non-Muslims, something almost unheard of in the 7th century. Disputes were settled fairly, no matter who was involved, and his judicial rulings are still studied today for their balance and justice. Even in battle, his focus was always on minimizing harm and achieving peace. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah is a powerful example. He agreed to terms that seemed unfavorable to avoid bloodshed, but in the long run, it became a strategic victory. He taught that true strength isn't about overpowering others, but about controlling oneself and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. His interactions with
with children, were gentle and affectionate. He encouraged education for both men and women, a revolutionary stance in his era, saying that seeking knowledge was a duty for every believer. He warned against arrogance, greed, and oppression, while promoting charity, forgiveness, and honesty as the foundation of a healthy society. His nights were often spent in long, heartfelt prayers, even after full days of work and responsibility, showing a deep and unshakable connection with God. It was this seamless blending of the spiritual and the practical that made his influence last for over 1,400 years. His life stands as living proof that leadership isn't about domination, it's about service.
One of the most remarkable things about Prophet Muhammad was his ability to lead in times of extreme crisis. History is full of leaders who, when cornered, either lash out recklessly or collapse under pressure. But he was different. He would pause, reflect, and choose the path that brought the greatest benefit to everyone, even if it required short-term sacrifice. When multiple hostile tribes threatened Medina from all sides, he didn't rely solely on military defense. Instead, he focused on building alliances, including with Jewish tribes and other groups, creating a united front. Then came the Battle of the Trench. Medina was surrounded, the enemy was strong, and defeat seemed inevitable. But instead of following traditional Arab battle tactics, he introduced an entirely new defensive strategy, digging a trench around the city. It was an idea unheard of in Arabia, and it completely neutralized the enemy's advantage, turning the situation around without unnecessary bloodshed. His genius extended beyond the battlefield. When he returned to Mecca after years of persecution, now as a victorious leader, many expected revenge. Instead, he granted amnesty to most of his former enemies. That single act of forgiveness transformed former adversaries into allies and united Arabia under principles of justice and respect. He wasn't building an empire for the sake of power, he was building a moral framework. This is why his farewell sermon still resonates today. In just a few short sentences, he laid out principles that the modern world still struggles to fully implement: racial equality, economic fairness, women's rights, and the sanctity of life. His compassion extended even to animals and the environment. He instructed his followers never to overwork or harm animals unnecessarily, and to provide them with food and water. He even warned against wasting water, even when standing beside a flowing river, and encouraged the protection of trees and nature. These teachings, given over 1,400 years ago, feel strikingly relevant in today's world. His public and private life were one and the same. There was no contradiction between what he taught and how he lived, a consistency so rare in history that even non-Muslim historians have admired him for it. What set Prophet Muhammad apart from most leaders in history was how deeply he cared for people on a personal level. Leadership at his scale often creates distance. Leaders become untouchable, surrounded by barriers. But he broke that barrier completely. He ate with ordinary people, sat with them, listened to their problems, and acted immediately to help. He stood up to greet others regardless of their social status. He never demanded special treatment, despite being the most important figure in the region. His generosity was so profound that he often gave away whatever he had, even if it left him with nothing. And his compassion wasn't limited to his own community. When neighboring regions faced drought or famine, he sent aid, showing that his vision of mercy crossed all borders. His relationship with his companions was built on mutual trust. He consulted them before making major decisions, teaching the value of shura, collective consultation, centuries before modern democratic systems were even imagined. His companions weren't blind followers. They questioned, debated, and offered their views openly. He welcomed it, valuing truth over ego. His treatment of women was revolutionary for the time. He granted them rights in inheritance, education, and consent in marriage, centuries before much of the world considered such ideas. He condemned harmful practices like female infanticide, which were tragically common in pre-Islamic Arabia, and made the dignity and protection of women central to the faith. He loved children deeply. He greeted them, played with them, and even shortened prayers if a child cried, so the mother wouldn't feel stressed. He encouraged the freeing of slaves, and taught that no one is superior to another except in piety and good character. If the world truly followed this teaching, so many divisions and prejudices would vanish. What made him extraordinary was how he balanced mercy with justice. He forgave easily, but he also upheld laws to protect the vulnerable, ensuring fairness for victims and accountability for wrongdoers. His farewell pilgrimage and final sermon perfectly summarized his mission, urging people to uphold justice, protect women's rights, reject racism, and hold firmly to moral values. When he passed away, his companions were heartbroken. They hadn't just lost a leader, they'd lost a friend, a guide, and a source of comfort. Yet the systems he established carried on, proving that his mission had never been about himself, but about the principles he left behind. Prophet Muhammad's influence didn't end with his passing. In fact, it grew stronger with time. Within decades, the message he brought spread across continents, not through brute force, but through trade, diplomacy, and the moral conduct of his followers. Historians, even those outside the Islamic faith, have studied his life in detail. Many agree that his leadership combined rare qualities, humility, wisdom, courage, and vision, in a way that changed the course of history. Michael H. Hart, in his famous book The 100, placed Prophet Muhammad at the top of the most influential people in history. His reasoning was simple. No one else transformed not just religion, but law, culture, and governance with such lasting impact. But his legacy isn't measured in conquests or political victories. It's measured in values that remain relevant in every generation: compassion for the poor, justice for the oppressed, dignity for women, honesty in trade, and unity among diverse people. These principles are timeless, and they speak to the human soul regardless of era or geography. His example shows that true leadership is not about control but service. It's about lifting others up, guiding them without arrogance, and inspiring them by example. In a world where many leaders seek power for its own sake, his life is a reminder that the greatest power lies in moral authority. Even today, people from every corner of the globe, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, find inspiration in his life. Whether it's a business leader learning about ethical conduct, a teacher trying to nurture students with patience, or a humanitarian working to bring relief to the needy, his example offers guidance. And perhaps the most striking lesson is this: change doesn't require vast resources or armies. It starts with one person living by truth, embodying compassion, and refusing to compromise on justice. That's how one man in 7th century Arabia shaped the destiny of nations, and why his influence will never fade. His message was simple yet profound: worship one God, treat others as you wish to be treated, and never lose sight of justice. It's a message as urgent today as it was over 14 centuries ago. As we reflect on his life, we're reminded that greatness isn't found in wealth or titles, but in how deeply you serve humanity. That's why his name is spoken with love by billions, and why history will remember him, not just as a prophet, but as a mercy to the worlds.